Hello, everyone. Lee Smith.
And Steve Keim.
And we're bringing to you another episode of Coach's Couch.
Today's episode is in honor of some great news that we read about recently. They are doing a remake of the Highlander movie.
The Highlander movie. And that's why we're totally not drinking scotch.
Definitely not drinking Highland Park.
Definitely not. Just apple juice.
Absolutely. For me, it's, I'm going to say pear because I'm allergic to apples.
He's allergic to apples. Don't feed him apples. But this is cool because, like, Steve and I, we grew up watching Highlander.
Yeah, it was the movie that introduced me to swords. It was the movie that introduced me to Sean Connery. It was the movie that introduced me to Clancy Brown. Yeah, it was the very first film I saw of Sean Connery's.
Oh, wow. That's kind of strange, actually. But you know what, though? I think it's cool because, honestly, I love the original movie. I don't talk about the other one, the sequels.
Well, nobody talks about The Sickening.
Yeah, The Sickening? Okay, fair enough. But, I mean, the original movie was awesome. And then the spin-off TV series is also great.
Also a huge fan of that. I love that show for all it was worth from start to finish.
I watched the whole thing. I actually watched it again as an adult.
So did I, too. And I was surprised that it aged very, very well. And it was still extremely entertaining.
Exactly. So, I mean, with this thing, there's some controversy because Henry Cavill of The Witcher and Superman has been chosen to be the new Connor McLeod.
Now, it hasn't been revealed if this is a straight-on remake with the same characters or if they're changing the characters' names. But we're going to work on the premise that it is a straight remake of the original characters and the original plotline, which I think would be a great idea, great fan service, great plot, because it still holds up. I can still watch that original Highlander film and be entertained by it.
Now, so Chad Stahelski is the genius behind John Wick, and he's bringing us the Highlander. I think he's directing, producing.
I'm not sure what his capacity in the film is, but
he's bringing it to us.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who's delivered a real element of realism as far as gunfights go to the John Wick series, and hopefully that translates over into the Highlander movie.
We know it's going to translate to the Highlander. So, I mean, we got these really cool sequences, only with swords. Oh man.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a winner. This is a winner.
I think so too. I like his work. He was Brandon Lee's stuntman on The Crow.
Oh, that's right. He was, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was also Keanu Reeves' stunt double on The Matrix.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be awesome.
I mean, Chad Stahelski, he has a huge body of stunt work. He is a trained martial artist, so there's going to be some legitimate combat ability portrayed in this movie.
So we got Cavill as the Highlander, brought to us by the genius behind John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how this could go wrong.
I'm excited. I'm really excited.
So now, you know what? Now we get to the hot topics. And this is Steve and I don't always agree on this. But we're going to start with who is going to play Ramirez.
Now, there's a lot of names going around. Obviously, if you want the noble death actor, there's Sean Bean.
There is Sean Bean. I mean, he would make a great Ramirez.
Yeah.
He has a great noble death actor. I mean,
there's actually an entire montage on YouTube of his death scenes.
I've seen this.
You can find. It's actually really funny.
He was brilliant as Ned Stark.
Yeah. Great actor. Absolutely great actor. One obscure name that Lee actually threw in is James Purefoy.
Yeah, James Purefoy. People don't seem to realize he's still kicking about.
Mm-hmm.
He had Ironclad.
Yeah,
which
he did
was great.
Ironclad. He was on Rome.
He was on Rome.
Mark Antony.
Mark Antony, the infamous Mark Antony on Rome. I loved it.
Great actor.
He's a great actor.
He was actually, oddly enough, he was the original actor who played V in V for Vendetta.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. So I mean, there's a great name we could throw it as Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
But I would look at that as kind of like the unlikely pick. Mm-hmm. Then we'll go to the other unlikely pick you suggested, Antonio Banderas.
Well, I mean, Juan Sanchez Villalopez Ramirez. Let's be obvious here. Banderas was Zorro, so he's done work on sword films. He was on 13th Warrior.
I'm still not a big 13th Warrior fan. I know it's going to cheese our audience, but I mean, it is what it is.
You know what? I enjoyed the film. It had one of the best lines I've heard from any film. Hey, I cannot lift this. Grow stronger.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
The guy I would personally want to see as Ramirez, though, Adrian Paul.
And Lee and I both agree on this.
Strongly agree.
This would be a huge fan service for anybody out there who likes Highlander or is a fan of the TV show or a fan of the movies. Because let's face it, Adrian Paul was a great McLeod.
He was a great Duncan McLeod. I mean, he was fantastic. And I mean, I love the TV series. And I mean, and honestly, see him take the role of Ramirez, that would be a really nice loop to kind of close up.
It really would. I would be really thrilled to see his face as the guy who trained Connor McLeod. It would be such a great thing to see.
Hopefully he puts his name out there. I know Keith Jennings is tight with him, our buddy Keith.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully Adrian Paul sees this and is putting his name out there for Ramirez, because I think he'd literally be the best potential Ramirez.
Absolutely.
I can't think of their name.
He's got great acting chops. He's a great martial artist.
Yeah.
He's a great stunt guy. He knows sword work, particularly sword work on film. He knows how to make it look good.
Yeah, it'll look great. If they chose him, I think him and Cavill together, man, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
So now let's go into like who should be the villain. We got the Kurgan.
This is an important one because the Kurgan, he's such a menacing figure. He's such a beastly individual. And I loved Clancy Brown as the Kurgan. I thought he was a fantastic choice, and he did a great job. So we have a couple of suggestions.
But we have to get into first, what does the Kurgan have to be? He's got to be bigger than Cavill. He does. He's got to be bigger than Cavill.
Well, let's face it. Film technology has advanced to the point where you can make someone seem way bigger than they are.
That's true.
I mean, just look at Tom Cruise movies.
I thought they used stilts.
No offense to Tom Cruise. I love his films. They're always entertaining. And I hear he's a great guy to work with.
But you know what, though? Stilts. So, but the thing is, looking at all these sword swingers out there that have done really good roles, let's go over the people we think would make a pretty convincing Kurgan. Now, first of all, I'm going to throw out the low chance guy who actually can use a sword, who's highly talented, and he's been in Vikings and Game of Thrones, and a personal friend of ours, Michelle Lopez Cardozo.
He's a great guy. He's lots of fun. He's a huge character. He knows how to use his sword.
He's won choreography tournaments.
Absolutely. I've seen some of his choreographed routines, and they're spectacular. So it would be a huge thrill for us specifically to see him on film as a major villain role.
Which is really funny because it'd be nice to see him actually swing swords in a film, because on Vikings, they made him an amputee, which is funny because he really was he's the most legitimate swordsman in the entire show. Which I mean is a kind of a strange irony to this.
Plus, I mean, he fits the bill physically. He's tall. He's very well built. Very fit guy.
He's very muscular.
And honestly, he can glare like nobody's business.
I mean, he certainly can. And I mean, he's our buddy, so I mean, maybe we're a little biased there.
Yeah.
I think he'd make a great Kurgan. But even if they don't pick him as a Kurgan, because they're probably going to want a really big name. But if they didn't pick him as a Kurgan, hopefully someone like Chad Stahelski sees this and just throws him up there as a guy for Henry Cavill to behead. I'm sure Lopez would be even happy with that.
Absolutely.
And he knows how to fight, which is a big
even
thing.
A guy with a bit part, somebody just have him involved in one fight.
He'd be a great immortal.
It would be a great thing. He'd make a great immortal.
He would make a great immortal, 100%. Hopefully Lopez gets on it and submits his acting resume.
So one guy that I think would make a great Kurgan is Mads Mikkelsen. And that's primarily because I'm just a big fan of him.
I like Mads. I think he was a great Hannibal, but I don't know. I think he's too short. He's too small to be Kurgan. I mean, I would want to see someone a little tougher looking. I mean, I see that Viking movie you said is pretty good, but I mean, still, that doesn't convince me. It doesn't sell me on Kurgan.
I still think he would be a great choice. He's got really good acting chops. Plus, he's just, honestly, he has the face. He has a villain face. No offense to him, but he makes a great bad guy.
He does make a great bad guy. He's great in Polar.
Absolutely. He was also great in Casino Royale.
I mean, okay, fair enough. I didn't think it was his strongest performance, but that's just me. So let's go to my pick. He doesn't really like Hafthor Bjornsson. Like just this mountain of a man, literally the mountain. I think he would actually make a pretty good Kurgan, and he has a look. He can grunt really well.
And here's where Lee and I disagree. I agree with everything, provided that Kurgan has actually no dialogue. As much as I am absolutely terrified of Hafthor Bjornsson, please don't pick me up and twist me into a pretzel. I don't think he has the acting experience to portray that much of a deep character, and that's kind of where Lee and I
disagree. I think he's an adaptable person. He'd probably figure it out. He seems like a really nice guy. So, I mean, I would personally like to see like one of the world's strongest men go out there and be Kurgan. I think it would be fitting, but I mean, him and I disagree on this one.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about guys we actually all agree on. Dave Bautista.
Drax the Destroyer.
I mean, I really liked him as Drax.
Yeah. He's a very charismatic guy, and he did so well as Drax. And he's done a bunch of different films as well that I've seen that I really liked him in. He was in the third Riddick movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was good.
He was one of the mercenaries.
Yeah.
Really, really great. He played a mute bad guy in one of the James Bond films. he was still pretty menacing, even though he had no real lines in that movie that I can recollect. But he's got charisma. He's also very physically imposing. He's a big dude.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be a great pick in my opinion. One guy felt maybe a little short, but I mean, again, you said camera does wonderful things.
It does.
Josh Brolin.
Now, Josh Brolin, he's got really fit for Cable.
He did.
Really fit. Plus, Thanos versus The Witcher.
Yes, Thanos versus The Witcher. How about Thanos versus Superman?
Yeah.
Come on, let's nerd out here. Like, I mean, this is pretty cool stuff.
That would be fun to watch.
I mean, yeah, that's a fight everybody wants to watch throughout the universes.
And Brolin has a great menacing presence. He does. He's good. He's a great actor. He really is a great actor.
Yeah, he was amazing as Thanos. So I mean, that would be something to watch. Yeah. Now let's go into the other two, which I think would also be really good. We'll go with Rory McCann, the Hound from Game of Thrones.
This one I liked a lot.
I really think he would be a fantastic Kurgan.
I agree. He's a big guy. He has experience on sword fighting films, fighting with a sword in choreographed motions. He knows what to do, and he's huge.
He was easily one of the best characters in Game of Thrones.
I agree.
Like a fan favorite all throughout everything. So honestly, like that probably my top pick, Rory McCann. And you know what? It would be really funny watching him fight the Witcher, the Hound versus the Witcher.
That would be a cool matchup.
Yeah.
I have to say. That would be a really cool matchup. So, hats off to Rory McCann. I would love to see you as the bad guy in the Highlander.
Yeah,
film.
me too. So, I mean, that would be pretty great.
Now, one of the more obscure actors that people may not know about is Clive Standen. Now, if you don't know who Clive Standen is...
You know his work.
You know his work. Vikings. He was Rollo.
Oh, yeah, man. I think that would be the other pick, I would say. Those two would be my front runners for the Kurgan.
Now, for those of you who may not know, Clive Standen is a trained martial artist as well. He knows action films. He's very physically fit. He's got acting chops. He knows how to play a role. He can play a barbarian or a big guy wielding a greatsword, and he can be menacing, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is a guy you could see. He's bigger than Cavill, looks bigger than Cavill. I mean, this is a guy you could see who would be a strong Kurgan pick. So all those guys we've mentioned, I think they'd all be really good. And now we got to look at the historical accuracy and tech advisors.
Now, it'd be great, considering that Stahelski does have a reputation of accuracy and some degree of realism from his John Wick films.
But before we get into who we think would be a good pick, and this is really very biased, I'm just going to open that up with that. We're going to say what we hope doesn't happen. We hope they don't engage unfortunately, the historical martial arts world, there's a lot of charlatans. So we hope they don't engage those kinds of people. Yeah. But because honestly, no, you don't just need a guy who can fight like us. You don't need a guy who can talk like he can fight, not like us.
You need a guy who can actually do.
He can bridge both worlds. Because remember, this is the thing. You're bridging stuntmen and you're bridging like the fighting accuracy. And so the only one person I know of personally could probably do this, maybe two out there, and one is Thomas Potter, who is our film guy for Blood and Iron.
He's also a really good friend. He's had a lot of experience in films as an advisor and a stunt guy.
He was a tech advisor for Man in the High Castle doing historical accuracy and stuff too. I mean, the guy's very, very good. He's very intelligent. And, you know, he even worked on the Game of Thrones burlesque doing all of their choreography and stuff too.
And I have to tell you guys, it was a really entertaining show.
It was crazy. It was like I was a barely legal show, but I mean, that being said, the fighting was great. The crowd was like just into it. Awesome time. But I mean, Potter understands both worlds, which is a very rare thing. So I have to plug him here because him or I can't really think of anyone else I would really say could really match that level of.
Well, there's a lot of chops out there. I can't name names because I just don't know the names. But I mean, there are a lot of shows out there like the Game of Thrones.
Actually, no, I got another guy for you. Kyle Rowling. Nicole.
Didn't he work on Spartacus?
He did, and he's a friend of ours as well out of the acting academy down in Australia. So Kyle would be a good one too. I think he also was on Star Wars.
Really?
I think he worked on Star Wars as well. So he'd be another guy who probably would be a good pick, who could bridge both worlds. But I mean, those two guys would be the only ones I could really think of that have not only the actual sword pedigree, they have the actual acting experience to back it up.
Well, my theory, the going theory that I have right now is Stahelski, he's a established martial artist and stunt guy in his own right.
Yeah.
So he's going to have contacts from people that he uses, and a lot of people in the film industry, if they're not sure, they go to who they know. And so my theory is that you're going to see a lot more maybe Eastern styles in here. Because let's face it, Connor McLeod, he uses a katana.
Yeah, but but Kurgan also uses a longsword or greatsword.
That's true.
I mean, there is that as well. So there has to be. Hopefully, they will take some historical fighting elements in this. I really hope so.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But the thing is, and hopefully they get some good katana guys too. So that'd be also great.
There's a lot of very well established, very skilled Japanese sword arts practitioners who have ties to the film industry as well.
Well, exactly. So I mean, we look at this. They just need a good, decent tech advisor, and it's produced by Lionsgate, which means it could be filming up in this area.
Absolutely.
It might not be, but it could be.
I can tell you, it'd be a trip to actually meet Superman. I'm not going to lie, I'd be a little starstruck.
You're a nerd.
I really am. I grew up with the character.
We're all nerds, so I mean, in some way or another. Personally, I just want to see the right people get the roles. I'm hoping for a fantastic film. People are like, oh no, it's gonna be. Some people are already on Facebook are already mad about the idea, and I'm like, I don't know. I think it's gonna be good. I actually, just looking at the first two names, Stahelski
and Cavill.
Cavill. I mean, it's gonna be hard to go. It's like basically combining chocolate and peanut butter. I mean, really, it's gonna be good.
I have high hopes. Normally when I hear that they're doing a remake of a film, particularly if it's a film that I enjoyed the original of, a lot of the times I don't really have high hopes. But I like the guy. I like Stahelski's work. I like Cavill's work.
Love John Wick.
I mean,
love Witcher. Love Superman.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully they can pull out gold.
I think they'll pull out gold. I think it's the question of who they pick as Ramirez and who they pick as the Kurgan and the immortals in between. I think honestly they go through the main character as long as the main characters are believable and good, and the action sequences are going to be as we expect them to be, really sweet. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a great film to watch. It's going to be a real sword swinger and something we want to see. So let's talk about the original version, like the original Highlander.
Still a good movie. I still enjoy it.
I still enjoy it too. And I mean, people are like, the original Highlander, so much historical inaccuracy. You know what? It's going to hold that nostalgia for me.
It really is, because I mean, it touches a soft spot for myself specifically, because again, it was the first movie I saw that had swords in it, that had sword fighting.
Sean Connery. And believe it or not, when I first saw Highlander, I had no idea that Sean Connery was also James Bond until later on. When I found that out, I'm like, I must watch these. You're English!
Yes, but I also didn't know that HP sauce stood for House of Parliament sauce. To be fair, neither did my parents. So...
That's a big sigh.
Apparently.
But, he's right, though. It is still a good movie to watch. I mean, is a sword swinging and cinematography going to be as epic as it will be on a remake? Probably not. But you got to watch the classics, and you got to learn to love them too. So
exactly.
It's highly recommend it. Check it out. I mean, I've only met. I think it's like one of our students has never seen the Highlander. I forget which one it was, but there's a student of ours I know that's told me never seen the Highlander. It's like confessing you do swords and you've never seen The Princess Bride.
Oh, well, don't even get me started on The Princess Bride.
I've had students who say, what's The Princess Bride? And I'm like, don't even get me started. It gets me going.
So, to be fair, it's aged. I think it's aged very well. I really do.
I think the TV show, though, aged better.
I agree, but the TV show did come later on.
It did, but it aged really well.
One of the biggest things I liked about the TV show is the TV show didn't try and rewrite the movie characters and insert them into a TV world. It was a fresh character that just existed in the same universe. And I think that was a really smart decision when they made the show. I think they crossed
over at one point.
They did. Yeah. The pilot episode had Connor McLeod team up with Duncan.
Yeah, that's right.
To fight, I don't remember the character's name, but he was played by Bull from Night Court.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was fun. It was like watching another Highlander movie. And it was full feature length as well, which was equally good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly was great. So it's a great TV show. I think you can find it on Amazon, but there's lots of streaming sites you can go to if you really want to watch it.
If you want a good show that's lasted quite a while and aged quite well,
and
give it a
seeing
shot.
classic Vancouver.
Absolutely.
There's classic Vancouver all over it. So I mean, it's supposed to be Seattle, but it's mostly all shot in Vancouver with a few scenes in Europe and stuff, obviously. But that's today's episode of Coach's Couch. Brought to you by Not Whiskey.
Not Whiskey.
And definitely not Scottish whiskey.
No, definitely not Scottish whiskey.
And definitely not in honor of a new Highlander, which I'm sure I'm going to be watching the hell out of. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to watch it.
Absolutely.
Post your thoughts in the comments below.
And just like the original film, there can be only one.